Hey, everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. Tonight is Thursday, and we're going to just dive right in. I really appreciate you guys joining me tonight. I am Ashley here with Haven Homes Group in Atlanta, Georgia, or I should say the suburbs right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. I am super excited to dive in tonight and just talk to you guys about some of the articles that have been coming out recently. I love having conversations with people about these articles just because I obviously have my own opinion about them. I always feel like the news media is kind of twisting things to their narrative. And so I love having deep dives into some of these topics so that we can really get down to the nitty gritty and see what is going on in the real world of real estate and what is going to be best for you as the consumer. So, one of the things that I've noticed, and obviously other people have noticed as well, because that's why we've been talking about this, is the fact that home prices are not coming down. Now, if you look nationally, you are going to see that home prices have come down in certain areas. Unfortunately, Georgia is not one of those areas. Now, are we seeing the rise that we've seen the last couple of years? Absolutely not. This year, in certain areas, we've literally risen 0.1%. So it's very minimal, but it's better than a negative. So I will take it. I will consider that a win. But with that being said, that doesn't help the fact that housing is kind of unaffordable to a lot of people. Earlier this year, if you were looking at purchasing a home and you had an interest rate that you were looking at of 6.5 to 7%, now interest rates are knocking on the door of 8%. That's drastically changed your purchasing power. You might have been looking at a home previously earlier this year at about maybe 500,000, and now you're qualifying for something that's closer to 450,000. So that definitely changes the home that you're looking at. And so one of the topics that I've seen coming out lately, and I've discussed that on here actually a couple weeks ago, is how are we going to break the cycle of unaffordable housing? And I told you guys a couple weeks ago, one of the things that I've seen here in Georgia during the pandemic, a lot of people went home to work. It was mandatory. And even though a lot of people have gone back into the office, most places around Atlanta have not gone back 100%. So they may have people coming in 2 or 3 days a week, and then they're still doing the telework where they're working from home or coffee shop, wherever you choose to work. But so that left a lot of spaces, commercial spaces, open because these large corporations may not be utilizing all of this space. So they've either completely given up on the commercial space or they've downsized. And so what we're seeing, it was really kind of nerve-wracking what's going to happen with those commercial spaces. What we have seen over and over is that builders are coming in, developers are coming in, and they're changing that up to where they're not going to have a commercial space, but better yet, what they're going to have is they're turning that into condos and different things of that nature. So when I saw this article come out that I'm going to share with you guys, smaller, more affordable homes, I really was drawn to this article and I read deep into it just for the simple fact, I don't know, obviously this is going to kind of tell my age a little bit, but I remember my grandparents, they had a house in Chamblee, Georgia. And Chamblee is just kind of right out of the city. So now it's even more expensive because people are trying to move back into the city. But at the time, when my grandfather bought that house in like I think early 60s, that area was not built out. That was the suburbs of Atlanta, Chamblee was. And so he bought that house for a very, very affordable price. And it wasn't a big home. I remember there was one bathroom that all of the upstairs bedrooms shared. There was the owner's suite, and then there was 2 bedrooms next to that, and one bathroom in the hallway that kids, parents, spouses, anybody, you all shared that one bathroom. And a lot of houses were built that way. It wasn't an uncommon thing. And so now, over the course of, time, I feel like little by little houses just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And a lot of people have really realized that I don't need all of this space. It's just wasted. It's wasted space. So I don't know if you are in the mindset or of the time frame where you might have purchased a home in the 90s, but a lot of people really noticed in the 90s, early 2000s that we had 2-story ceilings. Well, that's not something that you're really seeing a lot of anymore because people realize it is completely wasted space. I could have an additional bedroom upstairs. I could have a guest room, suite upstairs. I could have a teen suite. I could have a playroom. There's so many things I could have done with that space other than had this giant 2-story area that I can't heat and I can't cool, and it's making my bills go higher. So if you notice, you don't really see those being built a lot anymore. And that's just because the evolution of housing, they tried it, people loved it at first, and then people realized, I can't heat and cool this. I hate this. A lot of people have even finished it in. So going back to the affordable housing for smaller homes, I think that this is something that we've actually been seeing come back. It's not something that's new. It was done for years. Again, back in the 50s, 60s, even 70s, the mid-century modern homes that so many people love the architecture of, I know I surely do, those homes were not giant homes. You did not start to see these massive homes until I would say probably late 90s, early 2000s. And so if you look at this, the article says buyers should expect that over the next 12 to 24 months, there will be a notable increase in the number of entry level homes available. Now, for me, entry level and affordable can be two different things. Just because it's entry level doesn't mean that you got things right and now it's an affordable home. So I'll be interested to see how that really plays out. It goes on to say, in some ways, smaller homes are already here. When the pandemic hit, the meaning of home changed. That is true. So a lot of people, I think we were seeing when, the work from home, I know for me, my husband was home then all the time. I have 2 kids. We were homeschooling 2 kids. Our home all of a sudden got really tight. I mean, really tight. I'm working at the dining room table because I'm trying to be with my kids as they're doing schoolwork. It was a trying time for all of us, but we had to make it work. And I think that's really when people got down to the nitty gritty of what do I need in a home? I also think that that hugely played into the spur of home sales that came in late 2020 and didn't stop for quite a while. People that were in, a condo or an apartment in the city realized I can do nothing. I've got kids at home that I'm trying to school, or I'm trying to have an office and sleep here. There's no space. I don't have a yard that I can go outside into, and I'm losing my mind in this condo that I'm in. And a lot of people started making the moves a little bit further out, into the suburbs. Even, I had some people that have a condo in the city and they said, you know what, I'm bypassing the burbs. I'm going all the way. Like, we're going to buy a cute little bungalow in the middle of the woods so that when I want to escape, I'm truly escaping and getting away. So it was interesting to kind of watch that. Home size smaller than pre-pandemic. So if you look at the square feet of listed homes, this is so hard to read, but basically what you're looking at here is the larger homes were coming down and you saw a much larger dip in 2020 kind of those larger homes. So I think if you really think about it, it's just something that we're seeing cycling coming back in. Because like I said, so many people are finding that I don't need wasted space. I don't know if you guys follow, I've forgotten her name now, Marie Kondo. Anyways, she's one of those ladies that comes through and she organizes your entire house. I love it. I don't know that I would do it, but I love it. And she goes through, and anything that doesn't give you energy or doesn't make you feel good or have a memory tied to it, gone. It's out of there. And so I kind of feel like that's where this is going. People are trying to downsize and make it make more sense, which I think is a great option. Um, Betty, I love it. That's when houses actually had character. I agree 100%. I love those old mid-century modern houses. So the seasonality means based on historical trends and the fact that fall is now approaching, we can expect smaller, more affordable homes to come to the market throughout the rest of the year. Great news. The need for these types of homes has gone up recently. As interest rates increased in 2022 and housing affordability worsened, the demand for home size has trended lower. So, see, that's where we're going back to affordability. Does smaller actually mean more affordable? I don't really think so, because of the simple fact, if you still look at it from a price per square foot option, it's still going to be a pricier option. You're just buying less square footage. Now, one of the things that I have noticed, kind of going back to the condos in the city, we are starting to see a lot more attached homes being built. So, because land is not something that is just overly abundant in many of the areas, the city of Atlanta barely has any options left as far as land. That's why you're seeing a lot of the renovations of current buildings that are already structures. You are seeing in the suburbs areas like Swanee, Duluth, Johns Creek, Alpharetta, where those areas have been built out for quite some time. There are still some land opportunities, but land is so expensive that when builders are buying up the land, they're trying to make every dollar count. And so the more properties that they can put on land, obviously the more money they are going to make, and therefore the more affordable they can turn around and make it to the consumer. So that being said, we're seeing a lot more of what we call row homes. So if you can imagine, they're not attached, but they should be, because there's literally like a couple of feet you could reach out and get a cup of coffee through your window to your neighbor. So those are row homes. We're seeing some of those. And then we're also seeing a lot more of attached homes, like townhomes, not necessarily condos, although we are seeing those. In the suburbs, you're seeing a lot of townhomes. These are luxury townhomes. They're still pricey, but you can get a 2,500 square foot townhome for a much more affordable price than you could a 2,500 square foot single family home. The difference is you are not going to own the roof because you're attached. You're not going to own the walls on each side because you're attached. And so that's something that you have to keep in mind. Some of them do have yards. I know that's a big thing for a lot of people if they have dogs or kids. A lot of them are really nice because you don't have to maintain the yard. They have what's called a common space. So a lot of them in the middle of all of the townhomes, builders are being very careful to keep that into consideration. And they're building really large, almost lawn spaces for kids to be able to go out and throw the football or take your dog out for a walk. They're trying to consider, what would you want if you were living in a single family home, but maybe you can't afford that, or maybe quite frankly, you just don't want to have that. You are busy working and doing other things, and the hassle of having a single family home just isn't on your radar right now. So that's something to consider. If we continue looking at the article here, it says it's not solving the affordability crisis, but it is creating opportunities for people to be able to afford an entry-level home in an area. That kind of proves my point right there about the affordability. It's not solving the fact that housing is kind of out of reach for a lot of people right now, but it is giving them an opportunity to be able to get into a home. It may be a little bit less square footage than they had originally thought about doing, but something that I've been looking at is some of those attached options I feel like are really good options, especially if this is going to be your first home or starter home. You could hold on to that property and then use that home kind of as an investment home. We've talked about that on here before. If you are not in the throes of family life where you have kids that if you change schools ever so often, it's going to totally throw things off. If this is your first home, maybe you're just starting off, maybe you just got married and you and your spouse are looking at getting something, let that be your investment property. Don't get your dream home and then turn around and look at buying an investment property. Get your investment property first, then use that to launch you into getting your dream home down the road. Anthony, my man, I like the smaller home idea, and I think it needs to be a law that doesn't allow institutions to buy these smaller properties for investment or Airbnb. I wholeheartedly agree with you. And so in certain locations, this actually has happened. Unfortunately, it's not happening everywhere. But like for Forsyth County here in Georgia, they have put laws into place that are not letting people use, especially like lake homes, because so many of the properties on Lake Lanier were being used as Airbnbs or VRBOs. And so Forsyth did put some restrictions in place that they're not allowing that to happen. And I feel just like you do, Anthony, that things need to be put into place where until we can get a lot more people into homes that have kind of been waiting in the wing to get into something, we need to pause on some of these investment opportunities where people are just buying multiple homes to have as rental options. So I have to say that I agree with you there 100%. The part that is crazy, so I was looking at these statistics that I wanted to share with you. So 87 million people right now currently own a property. There's 87 million homeowners throughout the United States. 39% of that 87 million, or 34 million, basically, if you want to do the math, own their home outright. They do not have a mortgage on their home. So 39%, almost 40% of people own their home outright. Then another 61% or 53 million have a mortgage. So of that 61% that have a mortgage, about 30 to 40% of them, I think the number is 37%, have an interest rate below 4%. And so we talked about this last time. That is why we are not seeing a lot of people actually listing their home. And what is holding us up right now with homes turning over is the fact that these people that, either own their home outright. If I owned my home outright, why in the world, unless it was a necessity, why would I turn around and sell my home and have to get into something where I'm going to be having an interest rate? I would either be selling in order to turn around and buy something of equal or lesser value because I'm not going to get an interest rate, or I'm going to just sit tight. And that's what we've been seeing over and over and over, is people sitting tight. So one of the things actually Anthony and I were discussing is finances, because I'm asked all the time, well, how do I know when the right time to buy a home is? And this is a question that every person is going to answer you differently. Especially when it comes to realtors. A lot of them, unfortunately, are probably going to tell you right now, right now, right now. I feel like there's a lot of times that renting is the best option. If you're just moving into a new place, renting is great, so that you can kind of get your feet wet, see what's going on, see if you like the area, see if you like the schools. If you are switching jobs and you're not sure how long you're going to be in an area, renting might be a great option for you. However, in the long term, buying is always going to make the best use of your money. But one of the factors, and I'm going to share this article here, U.S. households are on the brink with excess savings likely to be depleted by month end. So this is in San Francisco, where home prices are absolutely astronomical and ridiculous. But this makes so much sense. And it's something that really makes me nervous because of the fact people have been saving. Right? They've been saving, and a lot of people have been able to put a lot of money away the last couple of years because the economy was really moving. Well, now with inflation, and I'm not just talking about with housing inflation, I'm just talking about inflation in general. I don't know about you, but me going to the grocery store to feed a family of 4, I'm spending far more money than I was just a year ago, especially since a couple of years ago. And so inflation as a whole is depleting people's funds. And so this is something US households are poised to run out of the excess savings accumulated since the pandemic by as early as the end of September. Excess household savings in the US have fallen every month for the past 23 months. Well, why are we losing our savings? Because the government has made things so expensive that none of us can afford to buy anything. So this is something that really is I take it very personal, because I don't feel like they are educating people on this. And the sad thing is, yes, I'm a realtor, and my goal is to help people buy and sell homes. However, I don't want to help people buy and sell homes at the risk of them losing what they have. So the time that it's right for you to buy a home is when you can afford it. Because what happened back in 2006, 2007, people were buying outside of their means. They were buying homes or they were, going under contract on something. And then after they went under contract, they would go and buy a new boat, a new car, a new washer, dryer, refrigerator, whatever. And the lenders didn't check again to see, can they actually qualify for this? Can they qualify when these balloon rates increase? And the answer was no, they can't. And so what happened? They crashed. So if we're not careful, and we as the American people have a responsibility to ourselves to keep up with your finances. Do not let a lender be the one to tell you what you can and can't afford. Yes, they will definitely help give you guidance, but you should be looking at those numbers. And if you're at a 50% debt to income ratio, perhaps you are buying a home that is just a little bit out of your reach. Now, if you're expecting something in the future that you think is going to make this well and good, by all means, buy that house. But I'm not ever going to be the one that's telling you to buy that home that is out of reach where you're going to be house poor, because it's not going to be a pretty situation. It's going to be an uncomfortable situation. So we owe it to ourselves to be responsible, to look at our finances, to make sure that we are buying something that is going to be comfortable for us in the long term. Obviously, you can't help if a job loss, a death, something like that happens. It's going to happen. But that's where you need to make sure that you've got that savings in place, that it's not going to literally break you the next month, because things do happen. Hi there. Thanks for detailing. Do you think that interest rates will come down anytime soon? If you want me to be honest, absolutely not. I do not think that we're going to see interest rates come down until 2024. I think that the Fed is going to continue to raise them. I think Powell is just having a grand old time with himself. I think that during the holiday season, you're going to see the job market rise even further. Unemployment is going to look even less because of the seasonality. A lot of people are getting those part-time seasonal jobs for the holidays that are going on. So it appears that unemployment is even lower than it was before. Now, I do hope that they will take that into consideration, that these jobs are just seasonal, that they are not lasting long-term. But who knows what goes on in their heads? I wish I had a crystal ball and could say, but I personally do not believe that we're going to be seeing interest rates come down until at least first quarter 2024. I do think that by third quarter 2024, that we're going to be seeing them back down in the fives. I don't think they will be at 5, but I do think we'll see them right below 6, because it's an election year. Everybody's got to be happy. Everybody's got to be, somebody's got to look good. And that's when those rates will come down, stir the economy back. And that's what I really think that we're going to see next year. So that being said, looking at this article, in 2021, Americans had amassed a record 2.1 trillion in excess savings. That's fantastic, but that had fallen to just 190 billion by June and was projected to be falling at a rate of 100 billion per month. You guys, that is insane. That is insane. So I can say for me and my household personally, we have been going in, and this is very personal, but I feel like I need to share it with you guys because this is something that is very near and dear to my heart. I try and teach my personal children about finances, and I feel like it's something that everybody needs to learn, and it can be overwhelming, right? But you have to figure out your own finances. You cannot rely on somebody else, especially the government, to tell you what is right and what is wrong when it comes to your own personal finances. And so looking at this, we have gone through and we have really been itemizing what we are spending on. looking at some of the things like a gym membership. I'd love to say that I go every day, but I don't. And it's something that I waste, and it's $24 a month. That do I need to be spending? No. And yes, it's just $24 a month. It's not going to make or break me, but it's those little bitty things that, all of I can't tell you how many apps I didn't realize that I'm paying for. Altogether, there was about $100 worth of apps and gym memberships and things just for me personally that I'm spending that I'm not even really paying attention to. So wiping those out. When we are in these times where they can say we're not in a recession, I would say otherwise, but we're definitely in a time where we as the American people need to be vigilant, and we need to be watching what's going on, and we need to be having these discussions, because as much as it would hurt as a real estate agent to go into a real estate recession, if we as the people chose to do it in a smart way so that we stopped spending, so that the economy could come to kind of a level playing field, and then we chose to make it move forward compared to raising rates or going into a 2008 housing recession, that would make things a lot more easier if it was a decision that we made compared to having it pushed on us. Anthony, Google CME watch tool and click probabilities, and you'll see the market predictions on Fed futures. Typically, the Fed doesn't go opposite of the market. Market says high rates through 2024. We will see. We will definitely see. Like I said, I don't see them coming down 2023 at all. We'll see what Powell does. Is it 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now? When the job reports come out, and see what goes on with that, I think that we're going to continue to see them, either plateauing. I don't think we'll see that. I think we'll continue to see them go up through the end of 2023, 2024 starting. But like I said, election year, if you look at history, repeats itself. Election years, a lot of time rates go down because they need to stir that economy to get things going. So one other thing, totally switching directions on you guys, I wanted to share this with you. This just came out a couple of days ago. So if you live in the Metro Atlanta area, especially if you live in Gwinnett County, which is going to be Duluth, Suwannee, Beaufort, Johns Creek, Lawrenceville, any of those areas, state officials just awarded $24.8 million construction contract for McGinnis Ferry Road interchange. So this is going to be a great thing, and it's going to be absolute hell, because of the simple fact this is going to create a lot of traffic on roadways that are already congested. Now, I understand that the reason they're doing this is to alleviate some of that congestion. However, the last time they worked on McGinnis Ferry, it took well into a decade for them to finish it. So Gwinnett County, Forsyth County, I hope that you guys are going to be on your game on this one. But so here it says the Georgia Department of Transportation has awarded a contract. The state is going to be spending $24.8 million construction contract. 17%, or approximately $30.7 million, is for 3 construction projects. This one is going to be right here. If you're familiar with this area, it's going to be at 85 and McGinnis Ferry. So what they're planning to do is going to be an interchange on I-85. This has been talked about for quite some time. If you live in this area, there is not a way to get off at McGinnis Ferry if you're going north or south on Highway 85. You have to continue going further up and get off at Suwannee, or you have to get off before, which is going to be Old Peachtree. So this will put yet another exit, so that way people are not having to necessarily always come up Peachtree Industrial or go up past their exit and turn around and come back. This will, I think, alleviate a lot of traffic. But you guys, are y'all ready for the build out that this is going to create, the traffic that this is going to create? So if you're looking to move into those areas, this is something that I definitely want you to keep on your radar. It's going to be a great thing. You're going to have to look at the positive of what's going to come at the end of it. So I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. If you have any questions, or you want to call, text, email, go grab coffee and talk deeper into these, I would love it. You guys know I love to have these conversations. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week. Have a great weekend.